to order at 4:33-ish. And we have a quorum, and the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Anyone?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
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 We have an agenda. Does the public have any comment on the agenda? No. No, seeing none. Item 3, public input. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. At this time, is there any public input? Public? Thank you. Now we have item 4, minutes from the November 12th meeting, which I will skim. And does anyone have
I thought they looked fine.
doo, doo, doo.
You do such great minutes.
Thank you. These are beautiful,
No, you
Cindy.
do. I read through them. I thought they were great.
When you don't want to do something, you compliment everyone else.
Whatever.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I
I
motion
mean,
to
the minutes.
I
Minutes. The
motion to
minutes. We
approve
have.
the minutes from our last meeting. Yes.
Okay.
look
Is
great.
there a second?
Okay, I can second.
And all in favor of approving the minutes?
Okay.
Aye.
Ayes. Okay, so we have minutes.
Any public comment?
Any public comment on the minutes from our previous meeting in December? Was that December or November? I think it was November. November. Seeing none, we will move on to item 5, the battery energy storage system project discussion. How exciting. I read there were some materials included in the packet, like a city memo and then the presentation from Power Transitions.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring this project to the EDC. We've been presenting on this to all of the commissions and I've met with the council several times about this opportunity. And I know David Glenn and Kit Mann are here as well to talk about the project and some of their insight and knowledge and some ideas. So at the last city council meeting, the council authorized the city to enter into an exclusive right to negotiate with Power Transitions for a battery energy storage system project. And just to kind of clarify what that is, because there's been a lot of misconceptions and misinformation in the public about what this project is, and obviously the community has a right to be concerned when you hear things, like batteries and lithium and fires and new technologies. I mean, there's a lot of things to have concerns about, but it's also really important to have honest conversations and have honest information and do our due diligence to ensure that the city is moving in a path that has the best interests of the community as well as our economic future. So we've been working on a battery storage project for a number of years. Initially, when we started to see the direction that the power plant was going, knowing that it was not going to be operational anytime in the future, the city really had to start looking at what we could do to, one, take over the site, clean up the site, manage the site, and then transition the site and, create a new economic future for the city. It's 20 acres of really prime developable land. And we've gone through quite a few exercises to look at development options, including the work we did with EDA and Storyland Studios to look at the RV park and campground, looking at feasibility studies. We've done a lot of master planning, a lot of conceptual designs. But all through that process, we've always had a battery storage project kind of at the forefront of our thought process. And the reason why we have been moving in that direction is because we knew we had a valuable asset, which is the transmission system and the substation. And knowing that those are very hard to get permitted, and that has a value when you look at renewable energies and kind of the future of our local energy systems, our regional systems, and kind of our national systems. So in working over the years with Redwood Coast Energy Authority, we actually entered into a memorandum of understanding with them to kind of help us evaluate opportunities as they came forward. We've been evaluating and looking at a battery storage project. When the battery storage project, these are, people have said, oh, you guys were going to store old batteries on the site and you're, all these things. And it's like, no. So really what this is the kind of the stopgap measure for renewable energy when we're producing all of this renewable energy from solar and during the day and not being able to store the excess to be able to keep it on the grid and stabilize our grid. So the batteries allow you to purchase energy, charge up your batteries, and then when solar kind of goes offline, those batteries then kick in and feed the grid. So you're keeping that continuity of your energy source. And so
This is similar to the microgrid out at the airport, except it doesn't have a
absolutely.
solar component.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're starting to see these projects kind of come to fruition now because what people are seeing is you've got a lot of solar but you're not able to capture the excess energy to keep it on the grid when you need it. So people are now developing solar systems, solar farms with battery storage as part of it. Um, so the idea behind this project is this company, Power Transitions. This is kind of they do a lot of renewable energy projects. They do large scale solar systems, solar farms, like 1,000-acre farms. Like big solar installations. They do battery projects. They do combination projects, but they have been really looking at taking old um, power plants and sites and transitioning them over to renewables. And so we've been, we're kind of perfectly situated for the project, but we're also on the cusp of not being so well situated just because of the length of time our system has been down. So Power Transitions got a hold of us. They've been working with Redwood Coast Energy Authority to look at a project out here. What they're proposing right now is a 12 megawatt project, which is a pretty small footprint. I think, is it 8 units? It's a very small number of units. These units are 6 feet by 24 feet. Um, they're like 10 feet high. They're kind of like pedestal bases, and you'll see them. The Rancheria has them, St. Joe's has it, the airport has it, Mad River Hospital has battery packs. They're proposing to purchase 6 acres of land from the city. And in exchange for that 6 acres of land, they're proposing to demo and clean up the site and then
The six
pay,
acres or the entire
no,
site?
well, so the entire site, knowing that it probably will come in phases. The first phase would be cleaning up the full power plant, cleaning all of that, the concrete, everything. Second phase is kind of the fuel pile, or it's kind of a parallel path because the fuel pile is going to be harder to get rid of.
Free
Um,
mulch.
yeah, for years. So,
What?
tell your friends. Yeah, so they've been looking at options. There's a lot of material out there.
Remediation, is there a fungus that would eat it?
There are opportunities to get rid of it. I mean, it's not that we can't get rid of it. It's just that the costs associated with getting rid of it is the transportation cost is really the kind of the linchpin. But they're willing to work with us on that. So what are proposing to do at this point, what the proposal is that we would appraise the 6 acres. Um, they would take off the purchase price, the cost of the cleanup and demolition,
Which would be
about $1 million. And then the city would receive the residual value of the property. And I'm not sure what it's going to appraise at. I think it's going to appraise for a fairly high sum. The city corporation yard is just over an acre and it appraised at 535,000. So this is 6 acres with infrastructure, developable. So it could have a pretty substantial fair market value. So the city could come out of this deal with a completely cleaned up site, cash in the bank, and a nice battery project that sits there. It's quiet. It's non-polluting. Um, really doesn't impact anything. It was designed into our overall development plan originally when we looked at the RV park and campground. We always have kind of set aside a portion of the land knowing that something would go there. We just weren't quite sure what it would look like. Um, and it kind of frees up our future. We would also be receiving increased property taxes. There's not a lot of economic development associated with it. It doesn't create a lot of jobs. It
It
doesn't
creates the
create,
opportunities for the rest of that
but
site.
it frees up our future for all of those other things to happen. And it's really an interesting project when you look at, I mean, we've been kind of looking it up one side and down the other, trying to figure it out. This is there, some of the potential pitfalls have been fires, and those have been associated with the lithium batteries. This is a lithium iron phosphate battery. It's a different type of battery. It has a lower thermal charge, lower thermal runaway. Um, they haven't had any fires associated with this type of battery installation. Um, there's no, they're concealed units. There's nothing that leaks. There's
What do they
nothing.
do to dispose of them at the end of the useful life?
Yeah, so that was one of the questions that we asked, and they said that it's kind of an interesting concept that they can be upgraded. They can add banks to them, so as the useful life of one starts to transition down, they can enhance it with the addition of some more batteries, so that you can keep them on the system for longer. There's a lot of the parts associated with the batteries can be recycled. There will always be, those issues associated with, it's never going to be 100% green.
And that's
We
not
just
the
know that.
city's problem when they
No,
become obsolete.
right. So that's up to the
Yeah.
company to make sure that those are all, and it's a very heavily permitted and regulated
And
industry.
is this a government funded thing or is this a private entity?
This is a private entity, and I would imagine that there are subsidies and different things available as you transition and you're selling back energy credits and different things. I'm not really sure how, kind of what their back end financing looks like. I know this is a very well positioned company. They have a lot of assets, and they're they've been very upfront with Redwood Coast Energy Authority, providing all of their information. They're going through a solicitation process right now. So right now, Redwood Coast Energy Authority has put out a battery storage solicitation, and they're responding to it. And through that process, RCEA will vet them as well, to make sure that they have the financial backing and the proper experience and everything that goes into that.
It's the same people who have the batteries at Mad River Hospital in St. Joseph.
No, so those are private. A lot of, schools are starting to buy these. You can get them for your home. So it's basically a Tesla wall. So if you think of it as like your residential unit where you have solar, the loss comes in at night, when you get home and you want to turn everything on and your solar's not working because the sun's not out. If your solar had been charging your battery, your Tesla wall all day long, then you could transition that over and, you're running off your battery. So you're essentially being able to capture that cheaper rate, and capturing your own energy production. And so that's essentially what these are, is they're Tesla batteries.
It's a little wave of the future going with that alternate energy.
Yeah, and the footprint's pretty small. The site's about 20, a little over 20 acres. This is 6 acres. They would like to bench up to 100 megawatts. So, starting out at 12 megawatts, I think it's like I said, I think it's like eight of these little pedestal units, and then they would add to it. They can only get up to maybe 100 anyways, because that's all the capacity that the transmission line has. So it's never going to be this massive, battery field. And even if it was, honestly, like, it wouldn't, necessarily be a problem. It's screened. They said that they put security fencing around it, and then they usually plant around it and screen it. And they're not very high. So, right now, I think the tallest stack, I think it's almost 100 feet for the stack on.
Existing stack
Yeah,
out there. Yeah.
yeah. It's So, bringing all of that down and having something at 10 feet high, is a big
And
improvement.
it would pay for the cleanup of that
The cleanup.
site, which
Yeah.
would free up so much
Yeah, we're
economic
really
opportunity.
in a bad position. We knew we were going to inherit it, and we knew that we had to have this whole time for the last 5 years. We've been running this parallel path. We hadn't really pushed to take over the site because we weren't quite ready. But as we started to line up opportunities, the RV park and campground, we have the feasibility study. We're getting more interest in the Powers Creek district, new businesses wanting to come in. We've got the bike park going. The Eisners are looking at the corporation yard. The Russos are investing. We were starting to position ourselves to a point where once we could take over that property, we needed to really take the next big step into looking at redevelopment. Sitting on that power plant sitting there, it's falling apart. It's a danger. It's a liability. It's,
One fatality.
it's got a lot of problems associated with it that we really need. We can't turn
Attractive
it very
nuisance.
much as an attractive nuisance, and it doesn't look good for the whole district either. It's um
It's
we've
not smoky.
evaluated the foot. Yeah.
It hasn't burst into spontaneous
Yeah.
combustion as it gets wet, maybe.
Yeah, so the moisture content of the wood chips is pretty high. So we have had those tested, and they said, even though you might see it kind of like smoking a little bit, the moisture content's so high in those chips that they don't really have the potential to flame up. But, the longer it sits there, the more things dry out. So yeah, and it's just needs we just need to take that next step and clean it
So
up.
what is the requirement of the next step? Is it a vote of the council?
So right now, so we signed the exclusive right to negotiate, and I just wanted to explain what that was a little bit too, because it doesn't require us to sign, to sell the property. It doesn't require us to lease the property. It just requires us to negotiate in good faith and negotiate exclusively until we determine we don't want to negotiate anymore, or we want to take it to the next step and move on to something different. So it allows us to really dive into the project and how get the information that we really need to make an educated decision, versus being on more of a friendly basis where they're not going to give us all of the deep information, P&L, like
The due
the due
diligence.
diligence side
Mhm.
of it without this agreement. So this agreement allows us to start conducting, those more intense evaluations, asking more intense questions, and really looking at what some real options are. It also allows us to do community outreach, invite them in to work, talk with the community, answer questions. We're going to be arranging a tour to the microgrid at the airport so we can all kind of see.
That's really cool if you haven't had
Yeah.
a chance to see it. It is really cool.
Yeah, and some of the questions that have come up, the big one has been noise, because originally these battery systems, they do have a higher, not the ones that are being proposed, but the original batteries, they did get hot. And so in order to maintain those, they all had to have like air conditioning units in their containers. And so that created a lot of noise, and a lot of these are now being put into residential areas and stuff because they're trying to connect them to the resource area. So if you have a big development and everyone's got solar, and you can stick a battery pack in the middle of that development to kind of help with that. But then you have fans and you have this
Inverters.
noise
Inverters
and
are loud.
the
Yeah.
humming. These don't have that same thermal levels. So the fan units are very small. They're like this big. Um, and I believe actually that Kit's brother went and toured a site by where he lives and was able to um, kind of record the noise or the lack thereof, and get some ideas. So that was, great to be able to kind of
Yeah.
see that. Um, the humming, we already have the lines are already in place, so there's not any additional noise generated to transition that power across the lines. Um, we have noise standards in, in the district already that have to be met. So that's, there's already a lot of rules and regulations. Some of the things that we've talked about, if we were to sell the property, is deed restricting the property, giving the city the first right of refusal for a repurchase in the event they wanted to sell. Um,
Uh,
Mandating that they transition over to the opportunity zone so that it can't ever be anything more industrial than what it is.
Well, one of the things that I think would be important to do is a going dark clause, which means if they are not operating or they kind of just sit there,
Hmm.
then it can revert back to the city.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I wish I had done that on some of our projects
Hmm.
when
Yeah, that's
I
a great
worked.
suggestion.
Right.
Yeah. So, and they've been completely open to all of that. They've talked about, even helping us at some point in some of the development, some of the projects that they do, they're able to, kind of help with maybe some funding or financing for, I think they're doing a soccer field at one of their projects and, some other stuff. They have fairly deep pockets, that we could, take advantage of and partner with. And um, yeah, so thinking about some of the other potential issues that have been raised, people have asked about the flood zone. The property's not in the flood zone.
How are they estimating the cleanup costs? I mean, we'll have a commercial appraisal to value the
Mhm.
real estate, and presumably the grid tie would be incorporated in
Yes.
that value, which is going to be an interesting appraisal,
Hmm.
pretty specialized. But I mean, how do they? I mean, is a contractor or
Yeah, so we have actually had, I think, 4 or 5 contractors that they've brought out. So demolition contractors
uh
have come out. We've toured the site. They're providing bids, because obviously they want to get the best price as well. And so, they're all coming in around kind of where we thought, 850 to 1 million, depending on salvage value, location for people. Some people, if they're closer, the trucking cost might be a little lower. Some people have more expertise in transitioning some of the equipment. Maybe they can off-sell it.
But if they're
Uh,
going to do this in phases, they're going to do the cleanup in phases. Presumably, the bids will have expired by the time they get to the second phase of cleanup.
the second phase is really, and maybe I shouldn't call it a phase. I would think it's kind of
They're go-
sequencing more. The
okay.
is really the focus on the chip pile. So that's all
Well,
being
that's not going.
evaluated as well right now. They're
Mhm.
getting costs associated with that. It's just a harder one because there's not a lot of opportunities to offload that. So some of the things that we have been looking at, we have a lot of farmers who are interested in the material. One of the things you can do is you can spread that material on your farmlands and you can get carbon credits for
Mhm.
carbon
Oh,
sequestration. So we've had a lot of interest, which sounds great, but no one wants to come pick it up themselves. They want us to truck it there. So,
Mm.
so the biggest cost associated will be a trucking cost. But if we can find, I mean, we have a farmer that's just right across the river who's really interested in it. So maybe, those opportunities start to crop up where we can offload this stuff, in a closer radius so that those costs can go down. Some of the material will be able to even spread on site. Any development that we do, we're going to have to do site clearing and scraping anyways. And if we can get a manageable, 6 inches of material across, it's going to decompose too. It's pretty clean material. We're not really worried about, hazardous materials or anything. There's no painted woods chipped in there. There's no, real toxic. It's pretty clean, came right from the sawmill. So, that's probably even though it's a little bit of the harder situation, it's a little bit easier to manage
Well,
as
if we
well.
ignore it long enough, it will go away.
Yeah, that they are getting lower. The biggest one really is the power plant, though. I had to go out with the hazardous material inspector because we have to assume all those permits now.
Ugh.
And we went out during the windstorm, and I'll tell you what, it was the scariest thing because I mean, things were flying off
Oh
of
yeah, I've
it.
seen it's metal sheeting.
Yeah. And so we finally I was like, do we really need to do this? Like, can we just assume that there's like something there and like just check it off and go? And he was like, yeah, and he actually used to be one of the managers on the site. So
He knows what's.
yeah, he's like, let's get out of here. Cause I was like, this is, something's going to fall over. Um, so yeah, so we're at a point now where, we want to really start doing more due diligence. They're happy to do, a town hall, answer community questions. And I wanted to present this to the EDC. Also, if you guys have specific questions, we want the commissions especially to be involved in this process because you guys all represent kind of a certain segment of the community, whether that's safety or economic development or, impacts to, culture and things that we need to consider. So if you guys have any specific questions or, I definitely want to make sure you guys are invited to take, the tour, and happy to answer what we can.
A couple of my questions, and I was just wondering where this kind of project was being made elsewhere in the
Mhm.
county or the state. And you mentioned the hospitals, and I would imagine that if hospitals and thought it was safe to do it, it would probably be okay for like it to be next to an RV park, or
Right.
so.
Yeah, and I mean that was always, our thought process was finding those compatible uses for the site and knowing that, we had this grid interconnection and we knew that that had the most value. What would that interconnection have enough value to make it a worthwhile investment if it precluded other development? Or could we find something that was compatible that we could still continue to look at those other developments? And so that's why we really landed on battery storage. There had been talks about repurposing the plant and, could we do a new biomass plant? Could we reinvest and, with new technology and things? And, that just thinking about how that limited our capacity to do the things that we've talked about over the years or just kind of transition ourselves out of that industrial context. I think not having all of the truck traffic, the deliveries, we all, Kit and David and I, live really close to that plant and growing up with it right in your backyard, it had some real impacts. And it's a noisy site down there anyways. I mean, there's, at any given time, there's, backup beepers going on, there's gravel dumps going on. We hear all of that. And, it travels down the creek and the river. You hear those noises. And now we have the cows. I mean, the cows are like, my God, sometimes I think they're in my yard. I'm like, how is this? Where is this cow at? So, the sound travels pretty good. And so, we've kind of gone through a number of years of kind of knowing what those impacts are. So the idea of finding something that had less of an impact on the community and the residents, was, really important as well to consider. And I think, some of the things, safety nets that we can put in place with, like I said, deed restricting, rezoning, like what you had mentioned, Cindy, um, those are all opportunities, to add additional layers of protection. And, it would be great for the city to have an infusion of cash too. One of the ideas has been, don't sell land. We should only lease land. And, I've been a big proponent of, sell land when it makes sense because the city's not good at owning land. Like we own a lot of land for a small city. If you think about how much land we actually own and maintain and have to, you know, um, maintain liability insurance for and take care of and manage, we have a lot of land. And the business park, the industrial park, transition of the business park to the Powers Creek, that property has always been our best opportunity for development. And the idea has always been, if you can lease it and it makes sense, then great, and we're right now we have a lease with Danco. That's great. We'll have that land. We have the chocolate factory property still. Great. We have that land. But if it makes sense to sell a property to get, something of value, it really needs to be considered.
People are more motivated to do a business when they own the land.
Absolutely. And a lot of people need the land as equity to be able to do the
Yeah.
business. It's very hard to get financing for a piece of
Construction
property you're
financing
leasing.
in particular.
It's almost impossible. So, we've talked about the RV park and campground being a lease project. So that's great. That's, almost 16, 17 acres of land. We have the bike park, all of Perigo Park. But I can tell you as a city manager, it's a lot to take care of. We have 5 guys in public works, that's it. And when you think about having even just mowing, like when spring comes, I mean, I feel like we mow every single day. It's like, and I have to mow too. Like, when gets to that point where it's, really things are growing, like it's all hands on deck. I mow City Hall and the town square and, because there's no one else. So, the idea of being able to have some development clean up the site, have an infusion of cash for the city to reinvest, that could really help us in a lot of ways to attract other businesses and reinvest in our infrastructure, invest back into the park to get new businesses, other things that the community would like to see. That's really exciting as well. So those are some of the opportunities that I think exist through the project.
If I can
Mhm.
ask a couple things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been doing some research since our November meeting
Hmm.
about it. And one of the things that was the noise,
Hmm.
that I knew that was going to be a big thing to the
Right.
community for sure. Um, and then but yeah, everything I've read, it talks about that in prior years, that was a thing for
Yeah.
sure. And I've seen that on like 60 Minutes or 20,
Hmm.
I don't know, some things like that. And but in now the new technology, it's really easy. It's not that impactful for noise pollution. And this is going to be a really lame, and you had probably already said this, but so the lithium iron phosphate,
Hmm.
that's the batteries that they're talking
Yeah.
about, because the ones that in the past were um, the ones with the nickel, magnesium,
Hmm.
cobalt in them. And those were the ones that got really hot.
Yeah.
And so I think that if the public really understands the difference of the two, but I think because one of the other things that I found in just trying to deep dive into the internet world was that with those other older batteries, the what nickel, magnesium, cobalt, there was lots of problems with fires
Hmm.
because they did get so hot, but also in the impact and injuries with the local fire departments
Hmm.
that didn't know how to deal with them,
Right.
is what I read mostly. And so even though with these iron phosphate ones
Hmm.
that have a lower heat, lower cooling, all that kind of stuff, there is the potential that someone could vandalize it or create a problem.
Right.
And so, I mean, who's going to be part of that fiscal training cost
Sure.
for our local volunteer fire department and running into a fire of a product that they don't know anything about?
Yeah,
And
and that's a great question. And that's something that we did talk with Power Transitions about. Like, how do you work with your local fire departments? What kind of security measures do you have? How volatile are these battery packs and what should our concerns be? And I feel like they are pretty upfront about, what the risks are. These are pretty contained units. They all have their own fire suppression built in, so they
great.
have their own systems. And they did say that they put a lot of effort towards working with the volunteer fire departments, and that could also be something that we ask for is, maybe we have an additional water storage tank installed down there. Maybe there's a specialized piece of equipment that our fire department would be interested in, like some type of foam type apparatus that, I've been on a lot of vehicle fires, a lot of electric vehicle fires, and it's really interesting. They burn really hot and they are almost impossible to get out. And
Exactly. And they become really
they
dangerous.
do,
But,
yeah. And
that's different than these batteries we're talking about
yeah,
too, though.
yeah. And so that was one of my big concerns too, because like I
Yeah.
said, I've just seen it from the vehicle side of things. They're
Hmm.
very toxic, and they're just very difficult to deal with. And we've seen quite a few of those. In fact, last we had a sheriff vehicle that just blew up and caught on fire. And so how do you really deal with these situations, and are we equipped enough as a small volunteer department to be
Yeah.
able to deal with that? And so that was, that's a big question for us. And in talking with Jeff, he said absolutely that should be a concern. It's a concern for them as well, and they will absolutely work with our departments. We can, like I said, we can write into this agreement if we get to that point, what our asks are. They do go through a pretty intensive training program with the fire departments. making sure that, we have a good understanding of the systems, what we should or shouldn't do. Do you foam it? Do you put water on it? Do you just let it burn? I know with EVs now with car fires, like you can get that fire out and then it gets on that the wrecker going down the hill and it might start on fire again. Some wrecking yards now have containers just of water and they just put it in the container because they know they can't get it out. If we get an EV fire, we know that we've got to send our water tender and engine and probably call for backup resources
Hmm.
because we just need that much water at that point. So, there's a lot that goes into learning about those systems and what our training protocols are, what our safety protocols are, and that would be absolutely top of the list to make sure
Yeah.
that those are
Well,
all, put into place.
Because I think the fact that that they'll clean up the property, I
Hmm.
mean, huge asset
Yeah.
to the city,
it's a great
Yeah.
and to the
benefit.
community,
Yeah.
just to the community in general. But
Right.
um, to I think it would be really wise to negotiate some of those, like making sure that water
Absolutely.
tank is there so
Hmm.
it doesn't deplete the city's water supply if
Hmm.
should that be the situation,
Right.
or
And
and
I don't
then
even know
making
if
sure
water
your
is the best
equipment.
I
thing
don't
at
know.
No,
that
no, and
point.
I but or
Hmm.
just making sure that, I mean, coming from a community that has a volunteer fire department, that you could be really in trouble, and your neighbors who are doing their communities, civic
Yep.
helpfulness, are really impacted. And so I
Right.
think it's a big part of negotiations that the city should be really, what
And
can
there,
you
I
get
think the
from it?
industry is moving heavier into those regulatory processes, making sure that, each unit is individually contained in a fire resistant cabinet. Like I said, that has its own fire suppression system within it. It's got redundant systems. It's got, emergency backup systems. So if you start to have something that's starting to overheat, it goes through a system of shutdown and and then those emergency protocols get triggered where that's calling someone, having a maintenance person come out right away. I do know that they've talked about that they would hire a security firm that would do regular checks. They're not going to do
Mm,
24/7,
right.
but they'll come out and they'll check and make sure everything looks good, the fence looks good. um, that could be something that we also talk about,
What about
additional
seismic
security.
hazards?
Yeah, everything has to be designed and engineered to meet all the seismic requirements. They also have to meet all the NFPA standards for fire. So, everything, they would also have to go through a whole CEQA analysis for
Oh,
this. So there's
Oh,
a whole process for one, removal of the site. We probably can do the site under a demolition permit. But as far as installation of this project, they have to go through a full CEQA
well,
analysis.
even though they're
So,
building in the footprint of
mhm.
what's already there.
Yep. So there will be all of those reports will be completed, assessed. Everything has to be designed and engineered to all seismic standards, all building codes, setback requirements. It has to comply with all our zoning regulations. So we would probably require, like I said, to have that pre-zone because right now it's still heavy industry.
Is there
So
somebody going to be on site or occasionally on site, or is it?
occasionally on site,
Okay.
yeah. So they'll have someone that comes through and does a regular check. They most of their stuff is remote, so they can remote into the system and do all the checks and make sure all everything's operating. That there's not, I'm sure the system has a lot of bells and whistles as far as triggering, and they can see that
oh,
they're
absolutely.
charging adequately and discharging adequately and stuff. So
And
um,
they'll stay within all the parameters of the light pollution and that
absolutely,
the
yeah,
city's all
yeah,
imposed for down in that
yeah,
area anyway.
yeah.
I think it sounds great.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it is it's, it's not like a interactive business.
Hmm.
So
Right,
it
it's not
doesn't
going to cause more traffic.
exactly.
Except to bring them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Good. I'm excited to see it move.
are there any questions from the public?
I know David and Kit had some information too.
Some ideas.
Mhm.
We probably have to use this.
Yep, make sure it's on.
Yes. You're gonna get up here with me. So, going back to what Mandy was saying at the very beginning, there is a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of worries. These are appropriate, and what we have been thinking about is how to answer those questions in a way that the community can feel confident in. And so, what we wanted to propose is an approach um, that would center on the concerns, center on worries, center on I'm afraid of this or I'm afraid of that. Mandy mentioned noise. That's top A number one.
Yeah.
When you look at the zoning ordinance, it talks about the nearest residence to the industrial park. I am that residence, and I don't want those things making noise. So that's my worry. But there are lots of other worries. People are worried about pollution. People worry about all kinds of different things. So we wanted to suggest an approach that would ultimately end up in the public meeting that they would support. And you want to talk?
Okay. Yeah, it seems to me that just in this discussion that
Get
we've
a
just
little
been
closer to the
am,
mic.
am
Yeah.
I close enough?
Yeah. Justin? 4 or 5 inches, he says.
Just in this,
Yeah.
Hand,
just in this last 30 minutes as we discuss this thing, you watch the issues come up. They come up over and over. Problem, of course, is that only the people in this room hear the thing, or only the people who happen to be at the original presentation with Jeff are actually privy to that information. And so there's all these rumors and misinformation that swirls around out there. So we're really focusing on that. And so we're looking at a way, an approach that would isolate each one of those issues, clarify them, give them as just as clear as possible, turn them into a question that is answerable, and then go to all of the appropriate people and say, okay, what's the answer? Power transitions, what's your answer for this? And then at that point, we are proposing to set up a committee that goes out and basically fact checks those answers. Power transition seem like wonderful people, but they're selling a project. And we all know that people
Absolutely.
selling a project painted in the most um, best colors they can find. Um, and so our idea would be to go basically to start with the concerned citizens who are raising these concerns, and plus all the ones that come up in meetings like this, and then isolating them, defining them, turning them into a question, and then going out and answering those questions. We're talking about and that research process as kind of like the research you did on the internet. We also have Kit's brother who went out, who actually volunteered to go out in San Diego and drive out to the plant. And Kit's on the phone and he's going, okay. And we're asking the questions. He go, what do you hear? And he goes, pretty much all I hear is the traffic around me because the plant is pretty silent. So
But also Sherry Williams, who was at the last council meeting, is a local Blue Laker, and she was interested in it, and she happened to be driving to Southern California,
Nice.
and she has been to all 3 of the lithium iron phosphate power plants in
Oh, great,
California now.
great.
So she's visited, taken photos, done recordings, taken a decibel meter. So we have
Awesome. That's
real
great.
local.
Real.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
yeah.
We also have other resources. My wife and I volunteer at the California Native Plant Society, and one of the PG&E plant engineers also comes and volunteers every once in a while. Wonderful source of information about lithium iron batteries and lithium mangan. You had it better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
I-
kind.
yeah. The good kind.
lithium
Good
iron
kinds.
phosphate.
Well, no, it's the other one, the manganese.
Oh, the cobalt.
Nickel.
That's the
nickel,
that's
the nickel one.
that's the bad
That's the noisy one.
that's the noisy
Anyway,
one. Yes.
we do have these resources, and the idea is to independently fact check some of that stuff. So when Jeff says it doesn't make noise, that's great. Let's go have my brother and Sherry and anybody else that can get to a plant go and listen.
Are they
That
able
kind
to change the technology they want to use after these
Absolutely.
agreements are done?
Yeah. And
So
that's one thing that they talked about
Yeah.
is trying to stay up to date with new technology. It seems like that's kind of a benchmark of this company too, is that they're they're always looking for what the latest, greatest technology investment is. So that's, and that could be something that's built into the agreement, I think, as well, is to, ensure that we are looking towards, new technologies and, maintaining all of those safety standards as those start to, increase. So, yeah, that was one thing that they did mention, that they are really interested in staying up to date with new technologies and trading these out. You guys were both on the original Economic Development Corporation for the city. Can you talk a little bit about the idea? There's I've heard it now for a long time about the city never sells land. The city should always lease land. And you guys probably have some of the best background on the business park and the thought process around that. Can you talk a little bit about kind of where that came from or what your understanding
Yes.
of that is?
Short answer is yes. Um, Originally, it was employment development process to get the industrial park because Macintosh Mill had just gone down when we first moved in 1978. The head rig was still running, so it had just closed down, and we were looking for jobs.
Mhm.
And the initial concept was we didn't want speculation, land speculation. We didn't want people coming out here buying a lot and then sitting on it and reselling the lot. We wanted to see businesses occur. And so the deal was that you had to actually have a going concern for, and even back then it was a going concern for a certain period of years, and then you could buy the property. So we even had the concept back in that you could eventually buy, but the lease concept was an attempt to prevent land speculation.
Mhm.
It wasn't so much to generate lease revenues for the city. That wasn't the goal.
Mhm.
It was more about development.
Right.
Yeah, it was a we were left with this vacuum after Macintosh left, and then after they closed down, and so um, Ultra Power came along and they wanted to put in this plant, and as we worked out this deal with the leasing for it, and also there was an incentive because they were willing to give us advanced lease payments that allowed us to build the infrastructure for the
Mhm.
industrial park in order so it provided enough infrastructure that it wasn't only for them. It then allowed us to then turn around, like I talked my friend Eric Almquist into siting here rather than over in Arcata at the time, and he was here for a number of years before he left. So it just gave us that ability, and then the brewery and some of the other things came along afterwards. But it was that kind of the fact that Ultra Power was willing to do it on a lease, they didn't have a problem with that at all, and so it gave us the bootstrap up to be able to do other things.
Mhm.
Um, so that was our thinking.
Yeah, and that's, kind of similar to what we're talking about with like Eisner's who want to purchase the corporation yard, looking at structuring that sale so that there's some trigger points before that sale can take place. So, we can work with them through the design process and everything, and then up to the point where they get a building permit and financing or whatever is when that sale or the property transition can take place so that we're guaranteed to get something, and we've rewritten the zone. I think the zone is really helpful because it helps us, get the types of businesses and investment that we're hoping to see down there that will generate, revenue, retail sales tax, amenities for the community and things as well. But the idea of that we're just always going to lease these lands. And when I came on board, actually, all the cities pieces of property were listed for sale. Wells Commercial had them all listed, and we just haven't had anyone interested in buying them for years.
Well, that's
They've,
what happened down at the Riverwalk. It took a while before
yeah,
all those parcels
yeah.
got purchased.
And it really has taken us, rezoning, having some ideas for this master plan, making some of these new investments in recreation to really start to get people really interested. And we have a lot of interest now, which is really exciting. But, at the time, luckily we didn't sell the land, I think, because I think, the idea was, once we had this new zone, the idea is to leverage those properties to get some long-term revenue and investment into the community, whether that's retail sales tax or, job deployment, some more housing, so the idea, that we have these properties and like, how do we max out their value? So that was one of the things I've hear quite a bit is like, oh, we never sell land. Well, that's not true.
But there's another problem though that I think we didn't even anticipate at the time that in 1982 or 83 when we were citing ultra power. But in the time I was chairman of the planning commission from 78 through 90, and we came up we had a problem, which was we had a good company here, Pacific Carbons, and they sold it, and the people that bought the property were extremely unethical. I have always tell the story of when Mary Taylor was the city clerk, and a man walked into her office and said, "I'm here to look at my property. I loaned these people some money, and they gave me the property as." And she said, "I hate to tell you this, but they don't own that property. We own the property." And so we had two situations, and then what subsequently happened with the power plant. We had two situations over the years where the original people that were in the project were honorable people, and the project then transferred to people that weren't particularly honorable and didn't pay their water bill and didn't pay their lease payments and didn't do these kinds of things. So it's not that I wasn't even aware of in 1982, but since that time, just kind of looking at that history, does make us a little shy of selling property. We realize that unless you have those kinds of controls, like you were talking about, Cindy, those are really important. Those can turn out to be really important.
I will remind you
luckily
that we have a
we've
power plant right now, though,
Yes,
that
yeah,
was a lease.
we've learned a little.
yeah, the city's so much smarter now.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that if indeed there is a change of ownership or they
Mhm.
want to, it has to be approved
Mhm.
by the city.
Kim,
And
uh,
Can you put
It-
those kind of
th-
caveats in there?
yeah,
These would all be the features that we put into that negotiating
Mhm.
agreement as we sit down and
yeah.
negotiate. And I would like to just segue from that into, I think one of you should be on that negotiating committee. Somebody from the Economic
Yeah,
Development Commission,
that'd be
that would be
great.
another good person. So
Mhm.
somebody from the council, somebody from the, you know, EDC would be great. But I have to go to a RCEA Citizen Advisory Committee meeting in Eureka at 6. So I want to kind of cut to the chase and just say that. So we've been thinking about this, and we would like to offer our services to the commission. We think that the commission is the appropriate lead agency for developing a community outreach process, and that would be a really, with the eventual goal of a public meeting, probably a couple of months down the road.
Hmm.
Um, and we'd like to help, but
That's great.
it would be great to have. I mean, somebody from your group, should be guiding us or helping us, and we can sit down. We did, we've written some stuff up already, but we don't have it it's not presentable, but
Right.
that's what we're proposing is to,
Awesome.
uh, you know, sit down with you guys
help the public get
and
informed about.
develop an approach that centers the public as the
Right.
Is that
process.
copacetic for us
Yeah,
to
absolutely. You guys have the ability to have ad hoc committees, and I think as a perfect use of that option, um, I'm really grateful to David and Kit for for going to the extent that they have to learn and investigate because that's really what we need. We need to get that information, and we need to get it to a point where the community is comfortable as well. And the fact that you guys do have that longevity and attachment to the process, the location, probably like David, Kit, Roxanne, and myself, and well, Darcy, you live pretty close to that property too. You know, we've all got a little bit of a vested interest in
Some
making
skin in
sure.
the game.
Yeah. You
And I
know,
understand that.
yeah.
In my
Yeah, right.
situation, I do.
Exactly. Yeah, you've had those same impacts. So, yeah, so I think if you guys, would like to do that, I would, I think it's a great opportunity. And that's why I always tell the people, the commissions do a lot of the work. You guys do a lot of the ground up work. And, by the time things get to council, you guys have put in a lot of time. All of our commissions, do a lot of work and a lot of extra. And I think you're a better connection point as well to the community, to have that extra level of scrutiny and interest and capacity. And as commissions, you have a little bit more fluidity too to make that outreach and ask those questions. So I think that would be a great asset.
I think we should do it.
Yeah.
So there's some interest in forming an ad hoc committee
Yes.
to work with the public engagement and due diligence process.
Mhm.
Are there any volunteers?
Oh,
Well, you
look
guys
at
are
everyone's
smarter
ass.
than me. I would suggest one of you.
Uh, actually, I
Yeah, I could help. I'd be happy to help.
Great.
Yeah.
and I could too, only because I have the development background when I
Mhm.
was at the city of Eureka and understanding that you can put some restrictions in
Yeah.
there for the future. And you ask a question, can you do that? And what you have is you have an agreement, a sales agreement that outlines, we called in redevelopment, disposition and
Mhm.
development agreement. And you have the terms and the conditions in there where if you transfer the property, it has to come back to the city for approval. And that way you can guarantee, or hopefully guarantee, that it will be maintained the way it was intended.
Mhm.
Or just that first right of
Yeah.
refusal. Yeah.
Yeah, some
And
type
that
of
too.
mechanism that
Something
keeps
that
the city in
Yeah.
a first position,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. And like I said, the zoning is really important. So transitioning that over to the opportunity zone so that it can't go in an industrial direction. If they were to get this product and say, guess what? We're going to do battery plus a biomass plant because it's heavy industrial. So getting it rezoned to opportunity, which takes all of that out of the equation, is really a big step too that guarantees a lot for the future.
All those safeguards.
Hmm.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Great.
Thanks for
Thanks, you
stepping up.
guys.
Sounds
Thank you.
like you got the
Thank-
right people on
thank
the
you.
job.
So do we need a motion for an ad hoc
Yeah, if you
committee?
guys want to form a
So I'll make a motion that Cindy and Kelly form an ad hoc committee to help with the community engagement and due diligence on this project.
yeah,
Great.
great.
All in favor?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Aye.
Hey,
Is there a second?
Aye.
Do we need a second?
Second.
Second, and all in favor.
Aye.
Is there any more public comments?
I think it's very exciting.
It is
It's a
very
very,
exciting.
one of the key things that I think we miss sometimes is the importance of the community understanding what we're doing and what's being proposed. And misinformation is rampant.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it was. When I worked at the city, we had an LNG plant that wanted to be over on the peninsula. And all we wanted to do was do an exclusive right to negotiate.
Just
Just
that
to
was
do,
a firestorm.
it was horrible. But anyway, just to see if it was feasible on
Mhm.
both parts and to do the investigation as to whether it was dangerous and all this, because you heard all these statements like it was going to blow up. But one of the things that we really missed too, the community, there were some that were never going to believe it. But one of the things that I thought was a real loss for us is they were willing, it sounds like these folks are, to work with the community to bring in some improvements.
Mhm.
And in our case, they were going to be possibly providing us with power
Right.
from the LNG, and we lost the ability to even do that.
And
Yeah.
send a very strong message to anybody else with a project.
I can tell you, it was the first time in my life that I have been afraid. Seriously, it was.
It can take on a life of its own very
Yeah.
quickly.
So anyway, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. When is Sherry gonna share her results with Is she planning on coming, or can we get a hold of her to hear? Sherry, if how is she planning to share? Okay. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear what she has to say. Yeah, great.
And I do have my brother's recording. He's standing there. Hello, this is Rick.
It is the funniest recording. He's like, I don't know if you can hear anything because I can't. Well, I can hear traffic. You can probably hear the traffic, but I can't hear anything else. So.
Car just drove by. It was an electric car. No batteries.
Oh my gosh. Oh, cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
She's got our phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay,
so what
perfect.
we did-
Great.
Okay,
Awesome.
sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you to you guys too for, being open to do that, and don't feel like, this is I don't want it to feel like this is you're being pressured in any way. So the more you can delve into it, ask questions, reach out,
you.
the more information we get, the better. It just makes it, that
Absolutely.
much better to make an informed decision.
Sounds like
Thank
they
you
got
for
the
stepping out.
energy to really look into some stuff. That
Yeah, and I was really excited thinking about, this opportunity and, what it could mean possibly for the district as a whole, thinking about could we work with this company even to maybe do a couple of battery pedestals for the district, and maybe we do like a little solar installation that feeds back in. Maybe it can help to reduce power costs for businesses. Like maybe that could be an incentive that we offer to attract investment and business into the district, that we have, kind of our own little power procurement that could, provide some incentives or something. I don't know. Like, but if we have a company that we're working with that has that expertise and that knowledge, there might be some way to capture that for the community as well.
And a lot of times they want to be part of the community because they're smart
Yeah,
and they want to make things better or
hmm
have the perception that they're making things better by their development.
right.
And no, I this is very exciting.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I hope it can all happen because we've got to do something about that power plant. So great things.
This is a cool opportunity.
Hmm.
So moving on from item 5, we are just keeping an eye on the clock here, and we have the retail cannabis ordinance discussion recommendation. I have not had an opportunity to do any more due diligence to see what, but I might have some opportunity this Thursday at the State of the City
Mm.
thing in Arcata. I'm sure I can find somebody there who's I can bend an ear.
Yeah, we can just continue this to the next agenda.
So
It's fine.
unless there's
Well,
any
we-
further
I don't
comment
have
or
any more
questions,
information.
So it would be tabled to the next agenda.
yes. And item 7, business outreach discussion. The chamber has already had some outreach to look for more chamber board members.
Yeah, I think what we had talked about was doing some research and outreach from the EDC to talk to some of our existing businesses to see how they're doing, what some of their issues that they might be having, concerns, if there are things that, they could see that the city could do to be of assistance or promote. So maybe this spring, like as we, start to see, just have a little bit more space to
Was
do
this
that.
a request from a citizen that we do some business outreach?
No, I think originally the chamber was starting to, I mean, we had been talking about this for a number of years. We've done this before.
Yeah, you have.
And then the chamber
And then was
started
that
and we said, oh,
pandemic
maybe we
thing.
should just partner with the chamber, and, maybe it's a chamber EDC kind of partnership that we're kind of hearing. So, because we don't have so many businesses, I mean, they might feel kind of weird.
Well, there's a
Like
lot
the
of
chamber
smaller
was just
ones.
here, like, I don't know. Yeah, it seems like kind of a good project for the spring, to, just do a little bit of outreach. And we talked about doing through the chamber and the city some roundtable discussions and also some training opportunities. We talked with Noah from Visual Concepts about doing a branding and marketing training that we thought could be interesting. Emily was willing to do a training on how to use Canva, to be able to do some basic marketing, flyers, social media posts, just trying to bring some low cost resources to the table for our local businesses, and just showing that that we do care about the businesses. We are interested in kind of where they're at and what their future looks like, and if they're seeing impediments or trends, just kind of getting a handle on that. I think that's been a little bit of a gap, that um, that we could kind of shore up. And the chamber has been kind of doing that same thing, as they outreach to try and boost their membership and show the businesses, what the chamber can do and what their role is. We're too small to have too many groups doing the same thing. So kind of blending our capacity and our efforts, I think would be nice. So
Well, the SBDC, the North Coast SBDC has moved up into Arcata now. I don't know if there's maybe a loop to be closed there
yeah.
with the Blue Lake Chamber and the SBDC. Will and Luke over there might be open to coming out and talking to chamber, or like at least letting members know what kind of services and
Hmm.
opportunities are available in Arcata. I know that Blue Lake Chamber members, I believe, have reciprocal membership in the
Hmm.
Arcata Chamber.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and we did talk with Will a little bit about taking some time with Blue Lake and coming out at some point. He had just kind of gotten started. And we had talked with Debbie Toasty about, opportunities as well, because, her family has the Lindstrands building. So we had been in contact with that about promoting, like, let's get a retail thing going here. And so yeah, I think those are really good resources as well.
I just read something on the internet about a pottery business coming out here, or
Wait, what? It's coming to Blue Lake?
I haven't had a chance to tell you.
What?
This all just actually got confirmed. Yeah, that all just got confirmed yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, they're not moving into town.
it'll be like a satellite of what they
Yes. So, yeah, so Blue Heron Botanicals, she closed down her retail space,
Uh-huh.
and Sea Goat Farm, they want to do a maker space.
Okay.
Oh,
And
fun.
so they're gonna, it sounds like from at this point, they've got lots of great visions and ideas. Those ladies are amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are gonna do like the pottery where you pick the pottery, paint it, and then
Oh,
they
fun.
take and get it fired for you. And they want to try and utilize the green space next door to the building.
Great.
They talked about like pop-up farm stands in the spring and summer kind of thing. So they have some really great ideas, and we're looking to work with them. Like, I'm gonna build a solid fence between the family yard next door and that, so that they can, at least that'll give some separation,
Uh-huh.
that kind of thing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So yeah, so as of February 1st, they'll be starting to, you'll see
Yay.
some movement there. Yeah.
That's
So I was
great.
super
They have a
excited.
great
We finished all
operation.
that up yesterday.
Very
Yeah.
cool. I know. I was like,
so
I was
did
scared
I.
to call
I
you
know.
and
I
ask you
I was
about
like,
it.
somebody texted me this afternoon. I was like, how do you know this? Like, I'm not supposed to, am
Oh,
I
because
supposed to say
Molly's
anything?
friends with you.
Well,
But yeah,
it was on.
and now it's on video. So,
Oh, there you go. Now it's
but I don't
official.
know. I don't know all their details, but they are very, very excited. They're not leaving McKinleyville at
Uh-huh.
all. This is just what they're kind of, it sounds
They've
like
done a
calling.
lot with the space they have up
Yeah.
there. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah. And this is like a satellite space, is kind of what it sounds like. Yeah. So I'm super excited, and hopefully it'll create some expansion for the coffee shop,
Yeah.
that, she'll see more traffic in that aspect, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I think it'll be an overall really good thing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That's what I asked him. It won't be weird if I come and be in a class, right? Your landlord. Oh, here's your rent check, she said, no, no. So, but no, I've just gotten to know them recently. So,
Great. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
That's
super
wonderful
excited
news.
about that.
Yeah.
so that's
Not
an
an office
opportunity to
space,
see how a
thankfully.
new business finds landing in Blue Lake,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and maybe reaching out to the businesses that are impacted by that.
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the other opportunities that kind of came across was I was talking to Murad Gabriel, and he's back in town. They have IERC, the Integrated
Mm-hmm.
Resource Ecology Resource. They're the guys that kind of were at the forefront of the cannabis um, uh like the scientists going into the cannabis farms and
The
really
impact,
looking at
yeah.
the impacts, testing soils for rodenticides, testing animals, looking at, poisons and how it gets into the watershed. And I mean, they've been on National Geographic
Yeah.
and I mean, they're amazing. But he said, one of the things that people don't realize is that Blue Lake has a lot of science, has a very large science community. And when you
Mhm.
look at IERC, then there's
The
the
hatchery.
well, yeah, the hatchery, and then we have the marine life group,
Mhm.
and then we have the other wildlife group in town. They talked about, he was like, one of the things we'd like to do is like a science, like maybe a monthly or quarterly science night
Well,
where
the
it's,
tap room was doing that for a while, and it was
yeah, but they
standing room
want to do,
only. You had to get there an hour
yeah,
early.
They
but
do?
they want to do it so
Who
each
knew?
group is hosting something.
Oh,
So you
well.
do it kind of like an Arts Alive, but
Mhm.
it's like a Science Alive night
Oh yeah.
where, you could come out, there's food, there's drinks, you come to each, venue, they do presentations, and just be, I was like, God, you know what? If you really think about it, I mean, we have Green Diamond as well. We've got a lot of science happening in
There's
our community.
opportunities for bird walks and talks
Hmm.
and native plant
Oh,
walks and talks
absolutely.
around
Yeah.
here. If you could just like figure out what time people meet at the town square and see
Hmm.
what we end up kind
Yeah,
of.
and so I thought, what a great opportunity that we haven't really thought about to tap into the science aspect of it, to bring people out and get people circulating in our community, because people will come out and have dinner, have drinks, and then afterwards they go to the logger or, spend some more dollars in town, but use the science to attract people to the community. So I thought that it was a really exciting idea and something that was a little different than a lot of communities are doing. I mean, a lot of people are doing science on tap night. That's kind of all over the place and super, super popular. But just kind of expanding it, would be really cool. So that's one of the things that is kind of on our radar. Murad was saying, when we get a little free time, I really want to talk to you about this. I'm really excited about this concept and idea. So hopefully we'll be kind of exploring that option as well.
Okay, so does the public have any comment about the business outreach topic? Okay. This is exciting and we will discuss this next time.
Mhm.
Moving on, item 8, project updates. I know I'm just watching the clock. We have 15 minutes till 6 if you're gonna eat before the next meeting.
Project updates. Yeah, so one of the big items that I think this spring we'll probably be talking about this at council tonight too is, it's been a long time since we've updated kind of the city's vision, strategic plan, and I think it's time that we kind of resurrect that and put a bigger push to help facilitate that to happen. I'm not really sure the best way to do that. In the past, we've had facilitators. Um, and I think that's really critical to have kind of an outside entity facilitate that process. And so, one of the projects that I would like to kind of keep on our radar is, bringing some ideas forward. I'm going to do some outreach to different groups to see, if there are any resources or what a facilitator might cost or what are some options or how other cities are taking on kind of their strategic planning and visioning process. But I think it's really, we're kind of at a critical point as we're like starting to really see some projects come to fruition and starting to see where we need to be, a little bit more organized around, business and marketing and signage and, branding and all these things that come with that, development of more of a business or economic economy. I think it's important that we have a more defined strategic plan. And in the past, we've had strategic plans and we've ticked a lot of stuff off our list.
This is like the document that with the Humboldt Area Foundation and put
Hmm.
together circa 1997.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was Forest Service, HAF, and
Arcade Economic
yeah,
Development
maybe.
Corporation.
Yeah, ADC might have been involved too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one you
Yeah,
gave us a copy of months
yeah,
and months
yeah.
ago.
And
That
then
like those are
subsequently
projects
over
we're
the
working on
years,
still
And there
yeah,
was
today. Yeah.
a lot of members of the community that were listed on there.
yeah, they
Many.
did a lot of work. And so,
Hmm.
starting to, kind of take that as our framework and then, move it into, where we are today and kind of creating more of a modern document. In the past, we've had what I saw, kind of our 5-year plans what I saw in the past were more like kind of checklists, like update this policy, and it was like this is more like a task list than it
Right.
is more like a vision or strategic plan.
Yeah.
So I really would like to try and find some resources to kind of help move that forward. I think the EDC will be a big part of that. So I just wanted to keep that on our radar so that doesn't get lost. And the Powers Creek District, we talked a lot tonight about the BEST project. The bike park, we're kind of winterized right now, but we're working on some additional fundraisers. It's probably maybe 70% paved. The Bottawat Community Project will be going to the Planning Commission soon. I just saw a project description going around, so they're finalizing their plan submittal. That'll be peer reviewed. Their CEQA documents being peer reviewed right now, and that'll be going to the Planning Commission soon for review. It's really exciting to see it all come together and just the connectivity to all the spaces. Trail, the recreation stuff, the bike park, especially seeing, the commercial retail space designed in, and then thinking about, kind of how, to think about people living down there and circulating and, creating that real neat kind of community of their own, kind of its own neighborhood,
Are we at 45, 47
I
units or
think
so?
they're 48. There's also a standalone unit that was specifically requested by the Arts and Heritage Commission to look at more like live workspace. So maybe it's for artists where it's like you have your studio downstairs, your living space upstairs. So they accommodated that as well. So that was great. We moved the site down a little bit, which just made a lot more sense, makes it a much more connected space. I think it flows a lot better. So that will be out in the public soon. And Planning Commission will be evaluating that project for consistency with our zoning regulations and
So
hopefully
this
moving that
is
forward.
the subdivision complete then?
No,
Okay.
no. We'll probably just do a lot line adjustment
Okay.
at that point. Yeah.
About the sports complex, is there any
It
more
has been an
discussion?
update for a while. I've been working with the Eisners and Tavis on the Courtyard property, and I think they're kind of trying to get that kind of concept kind of pulled together and then seeing how they would transition that other property. We did look at also though with the idea that we could get the site cleaned up on the city side is incorporating that sports complex into the area around the BEST project too, because that would be a huge anchor for any RV park or campground
Yeah.
to have that. So yeah,
And that
so
was
we're
with that nonprofit,
yeah,
right?
Hit Sports, I think it's
Yeah.
called. Yeah, yeah.
So it's still
hmm
kind of
Yeah,
moving,
everyone's just trying to,
percolating.
find the best site and find the resources. And, it's
Mhm.
like we're just so close on so many things. But
Yeah.
then there's still big steps that have to be
Okay.
taken too. So, but yeah, so lots of really good conversations still taking place. Lots of interest in Blue Lake, which is great. Um, we're definitely still seeing that really good, kind of momentum and energy around the stuff that we're doing. The bike park alone has gotten so much interest
That's
and there's so much talk about it regionally that it's really
No
exciting.
kidding.
So, yeah.
yeah.
And in fact,
People.
we get people calling constantly, like, is the bike park open yet? Like, we wanted to come down from, Oregon and, like we heard about the bike park. I'm like, no, I've had to kick several people out where I'm like, I'm really sorry. Like, you need to get out. Like, it's all fenced off. And they're like, but it's so cool.
Oh my
I
gosh.
know, but it's not open.
If you want to make a donation to
Yeah,
complete the project,
exactly.
well,
Yeah, so we'll be looking at some additional fundraising. I'm
are
working
the
on 2
t-shirts,
grants.
the
Yeah,
sweatshirts.
everything came in, so we'll be contacting everyone to
Mm.
get those out.
Oh, nice.
Actually, Emily was working on that tonight.
It seems like she just brought a little load of shirts in.
Oh, maybe she.
Sweet.
Oh, you know what? Those might be yours,
Lucky's
Marcy.
Christmas
I
present.
know, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
love
right.
it.
The
Yeah.
January birthday crowd.
And we're working on 2 grants right now. We're writing a grant to uh Headwaters and to Coast Central. So those will both be for the
Oh, the
bike
new
park.
Headwaters Grand
Nice.
Cycle for
Yeah.
funding for the bike park.
Yeah. Apparently they put money towards the McKinleyville skate park before too. So
Oh.
And we've gotten some really good support letters. And, I think it's really great to see people realize that recreation is economic development. It is such a
And community development, because it gives people,
absolutely.
it's it's for everybody.
It is. It absolutely is. And just seeing, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in California alone, and to see small rural communities, it's a great place for rural communities to have a piece of the pie. We don't always have all the big things that cities have, but we have
Having a
beautiful space, and so being able to capitalize on that for recreation, and like you said, it's a benefit to the community, but it also creates economy. So yeah, it's exciting to see these funding sources also really start to recognize that investment. And I think that's
Right.
ultimately, kind of as cannabis kind of phases out, I think the North Coast really is going to become that recreation destination. People are really starting to catch on to that now.
Well,
That,
with remote work, you're not anchored to a city as
right.
much.
Yeah.
Well, and the other part that happens is you get people who visit here and then they go, wow,
Yeah.
what a cool spot. I could have my business here.
Mm-hmm.
You always
Yep.
hope for that.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have any questions on any of those
Th-
items.
Are there any questions from the public about the City Lake of Blue Lake project updates? Okay. And Mandy, do you have anything left for item 10?
No, I think I'm pretty good. Parks and Rec, we're kind of at
Chamber
the,
report?
yeah. I'll just quickly
Oh,
sum
thank
up
you,
that,
Darcy. Yeah,
yeah.
chamber report. You met yesterday and you're looking for board members.
Hmm.
Yes, we very much need board members. Please. We're down to 3 active people.
Oh,
And
great.
I
it's
definitely think we need
a
the
lot of
Pico
work
Farm people
for
on
3
there
people.
as a new
Right.
business.
Yes.
Molly, apparently Molly's good friends with them,
Oh,
so
yes, that's right.
she could put that bug in their ear.
How
Um,
many board members do you usually have?
well, the chamber initially in their handbook that I was given when I became president says there's up to 9.
Which is a lot. That's a
Wow.
big board.
So, yeah, we're third of that.
Huh.
So yeah,
Anybody from the brewery on that?
none that are on the board.
Uh-huh.
There's Emily, myself, and Nailani, and then there's oh, the name
Hana?
escapes me. Um,
Fiora?
she is still on there, yes, but she has not been there. Well, I've never met her.
Oh,
Um,
and then Jeff resigned?
Jeff resigned.
Okay.
No,
Uh, I'm sorry.
no Juanica's or museum.
Nope. Nope.
Uh-oh.
What about
So,
Schmidbauer?
so yeah.
You need to get
Um,
George. Yeah,
Oh,
young George.
George.
sorry.
Yeah, we need to get young
They're
George.
like probably
Yep.
one of the bigger employers
Yeah,
around.
North Fork Lumber.
I would love to have whoever wants to. Like I said, we have 6 open spots that
Okay.
we can. And honestly, I'm not beyond expanding it if if more people want to come in. Because I tell you, some of the stuff we chatted about, um, I might be a little,
Person on there.
uh, yep, I might be a little ambitious for Annie Mary Day this year.
Oh, that's true.
I want to make it bigger than it was last year. Um, one of the ideas was reaching out to the Saddle Club and possibly having them do some barrel racing or something along those lines in the horse arena during Annie Mary Day.
Yeah, we did last year. We had a little play day.
Well, we'll make it kind of an official thing to where we'll have timings of it and then announce it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to where we'll time it for each different location where they can announce. And then we'll have an announcer and the city square. And they'll be talking about whatever float it is and who they are, and so we'll have an announcer. I'm not sure who's going to be talking yet, but we'll have someone. Let's see, roundabout sign. That's I know that's something for you guys. That's something for us. I know Nailani and Mandy are going to have a meeting about that, so maybe one of you guys can get get in on that to where you guys could have some input there. That'd be cool. Um, we're working on a website as much as we love Darcy and everything, she has been the featured
Business.
business for over a year on the website. In fact,
I didn't.
my entire time in the chamber is Darcy has been the featured. So we're working on an update for that. Neilani and Emily are going to meet up and figure out some stuff on that.
Skating or
And
something.
I'm sorry,
Should have the skating rink on that. Yeah, I
we
guess
we
that's
very well could.
that's
Maker
Park and Rec, not
space.
really a
Yeah, I
business,
think
but
Well, they kind of are,
these ladies are ready, I think.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So and then we're working on a bingo night. For we ended up not having a meeting for 3 months, and we were supposed to have the last meeting we had. We were supposed to have a bingo night Saturday. So yeah, that's just not gonna happen. So yeah,
The holidays. Give
yeah,
yourself a
yeah.
cut
I think
yourself some slack.
we're all just kind of in that I don't know, uh, recovery stage, almost like that bender you had all weekend. Yeah, I think we're finally recovering from that. So
going on for the holidays. I
It
mean,
was
it's
busy.
busy in the summer, and
yes,
then you think, oh, good, winter's coming, it's going to slow down. It
nope,
just gets jacked up even more.
yep, exactly. So
Mhm.
yes, put word out. We do need chamber members, board members, and yeah, because there's a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it. I think I figured out we have 5 more meetings before Annie Mary Day. So yeah, some help because 3 people to plan an Annie Mary Day that like I want to put on, we're gonna need help.
I've
Have-
not seen any like like
Yeah.
looking for like putting it out on the Blue
It,
Lake
it's
community. I
it's
mean,
coming.
Okay.
okay.
We talked about that last night, so that is coming out.
Yeah.
But sometimes word of mouth is even
Absolutely.
faster than just putting something on the website
Yeah.
that
Are you guys
nobody's
gonna
looked at.
put together like a planning group that's in charge of it
Um,
rather than doing it by like each monthly? Like you almost need like a group that has like can really delve into it and isn't hampered by like, well, we only meet once a month type
I
thing.
I would love to, but we have 3 people,
Mm-hmm.
and basically we would all have to meet because 3 people. So yes, we need a person.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, because I'm willing to help with the parade again. If we
that
can
would
get
be
some
excellent.
people, like, kind of assign some people, put the word out that you're looking for people to maybe, someone to help with, announcing, someone to help with the parade, someone to
Car
help with
Yep.
car
show.
show, all that. Then we can maybe get like a good group together and it's,
I would love that. I will take any assistance I can get.
Maybe
We
reach
got to
out to
put the invitation out there.
Del
Yep.
Arte might have somebody who likes to have a microphone and entertain folks.
right.
That could be
I have plenty of speakers and plenty of microphones that I can spread throughout the city to do announcements on. So yeah, we've got the equipment. We just need the people to talk on them. Um, but anyway, so I think that's about the extent of it. We should probably hurry up so somebody can eat before meeting.
right. It is 6 p.m. Does the public have any questions about the Chamber of Commerce report?
Yeah, but I do have a Parks and Rec.
Okay, so we're moving on to Parks and Rec now. And what is your
Or is there going to be a President's Day camp?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just announced.
Is registration open?
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I just saw Austin
just
put out
saw
an
it.
announcement.
I saw it today.
Yeah. Yeah. So it should be all available. Yeah.
and then they get a week off in February, don't they?
That's it.
That's the president.
Oh, okay. Okay. February. Mandy, did you have anything for the Parks and Rec update?
Yeah, no, we're just in full skate mode right now.
Yeah.
It's getting really busy over there, which is great. So that's happening. And we're just starting to plan for all these spring events, trying to pull together a few little community classes here and there. Kind of the same thing, like you said, though. It's like you think, oh, it's going to slow down here, and then we're like, you know what, the holidays are just ending, but spring is almost here, which means summer's almost here, which means we only have a few months. And so yeah, so we're just keeping our programming going. Town Square is almost done. Shade Structural will be going up as soon as we get a solid break in the weather, and just looking forward to kind of spring, summer events, activities, summer camps, all of those good things. Baseball season, registration's open, so it's always exciting to have the kids coming out to play baseball. It's my favorite time of year. So yeah, so the park looks great. We're in a really good space. We got a new roof. We've got a lot of upgrades, so we're just really in a good position right now to, really kind of expand our offerings and be that real local destination. So we're excited about that.
And I hear Bill is going to be there this weekend.
That's
Oh,
right.
really?
Did you know that?
No, I did not. That's
We invited him.
good. 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 Okay.
Yeah, Bill and
Be
Darcy are
awesome.
partnering,
got it on
so
my
we'll have
calendar.
barbecue back.
Partnering, we'll probably partner on some events, but I'm just we are providing him a place to get back in the swing of things. So yeah, and hopefully he'll loan me his pizza oven so I
Yeah.
can do pizzas on Fridays.
Friday night, Darcy's
Mm.
really
hoping.
says.
I'm hoping.
I bet you will.
That would
be
be really
fun.
I
cool.
hope so.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I heard him say you can use it anytime, Darcy. So I
Okay.
think
So
you're good.
item.
I heard him say that too.
So are there any more announcements?
Oh, the arena footing finally just got kind of fixed up,
Yeah,
and
I
our
saw.
first horse show is on Mother's Day. Because what horse lady wouldn't rather ride their horse on Mother's Day than
There you
anything
go.
else?
Right.
So
Kids.
we're
There
hoping
we-
it's going to be a series. It's a versatility challenge, so it's going to be really fun. We have some top-notch judges and
Oh, cool.
some great prizes, and hope to make it a series.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah, it'll be really top.
Those folks will be looking for food. You can't do both. You can't play and work.
Like,
Yeah.
Bill can do food.
There we
yeah.
are. Okay. So
I have a question for Darcy.
Hmm.
How are you doing with the breakfast?
I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. Like to read my book in bed a little longer, but I'm having to really kind of change things up and get up and get going and make those biscuits and gravy but I think it's going to do well. It's slow to come in, and it's just one day a week, but there's even, if it was to be as popular as I hope, we would consider, doing breakfast daily and maybe stopping later in the afternoon. Then I could just
Mm.
cook, go ride. Yeah. So it's a work in progress, but a lot of really positive feedback. People that have come back and new people every time. So
Right.
yeah, it's fun.
So you'll do it this Monday?
I did it this Monday and
And
last Monday. I've done it 2 Mondays.
are you doing it next Monday?
Absolutely.
Okay, because that's a holiday.
We'll still do it.
Okay.
There'll be more people around.
Well, yeah,
Maybe.
maybe. Okay. Any more announcements? We have our future agenda more or less. And so is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn and go home.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? We're adjourned.
Well,